Good morning, everyone. Welcome, CNAR virtual attendees. I'm Stephanie Price, and my day job is at Engineers Canada. I'm here today with Jan Robinson from the College of Veterinarians of Ontario. Really excited to have you with us, Jan.
Yeah, thank you so much, Stephanie.
So, for those of you who may be new to the concept of regulatory sandboxes, could you tell us what they are and how they're being used by the College of Veterinarians of Ontario?
Sure, absolutely. This is actually a really fun question because I'm trying to figure out how to simplify it. And so when we're really talking about the concept of how we apply it in our context, we're really rules-based, right? In what we do and also in terms of our programs and our practices. So what we're really thinking about here is a sandbox is just really an opportunity to pilot, let's say, a new program, a new model, a new practice model, where in fact is bumping up against the rules. Or also a problem that's trying to be solved that can't be solved in the current regulatory context. So it's really the opportunity to experiment with scaffolding, if you want to think about it that way. So it's criteria, looking at what rules we need to be considering. Then we're thinking about how do we measure, how do we evaluate the risk, and then when we're considering the conclusion of that sandbox, is there something we need to strengthen? Is there something we should maintain? Or is there something we can actually let go of? So when I think about how we're using them, my gosh, we really started thinking about this concept back in, 2018 or so, and took it forward. It's really based off of the Global Financial Innovation Network. And so they were really looking at sandboxes. Actually, it started about 8 to 10 years ago with Bitcoin.
Oh.
And so that's where the concept comes from. Our council was really keen to be part of solutions and opportunity. So we developed a policy, set it in place in 2020, and it allows us to take ideas that come to us or ideas that we want to approach. So let me tell you a little bit about some of them. An example would be veterinarians provide vaccinations to animals. But in remote communities, that's very challenging to do in terms of the types of vaccinations for public health and animal health and welfare on a regular basis. So we're looking at lay vaccinators. Who could those be? What are the criteria? How could we implement that? What does drug security look like, for example? Another example would be we inspect facilities and accredit facilities. And we're looking at distributed models now where our mobiles, instead of being attached to one facility, are attached to several. So how could that look and work? A different example from that would be with telemedicine. How far is too far in leveraging the skill sets of registered veterinary technicians? And the last one I tell you about, because I'm just starting to think about it, is chatting with a group from Italy where they're using Google Glasses to do audit and inspection. And so we're thinking about, this would be us asking, thinking about how is it that we could apply that in our environment as well. So we've just got our first full one approved in June. We've got 3 more in the hopper, and it's really an exciting time.
That is really fascinating. I'm from an engineering background as well, and so we see that as well, people using the virtual cameras and that kind of thing to perform inspections remotely, and a lot of carryovers between professions, which is why we're all here, of course. So regulatory sandboxes are all about innovation. Really, that's what I hear you saying. So coming to CNAR, you really can't miss innovation, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about what innovations are possible and where you think the potential is in professional regulation.
Well, I think it's kind of a necessity, isn't it? Now, I would say. And really, I've been really thoughtful about our role. What's our role and where we're heading? And I ponder on, are we champions? Perhaps not, maybe. But I definitely think we're conveners. So, and we're in the risk business. So given the fact that the potential for various risks, both internally and externally in our work, maybe sometimes are kind of endless, I guess the possibilities are huge. And I would say that we could be looking at anything from our own processes and programs and considering even things like how do we use something like a generative AI model to do our decision writing to everything from how do we look at applying our standards in a different way and having them utilized by our practitioners in a different way. But I guess I would really just say I think we need to be open-minded because it is such an open-ended piece.
Yeah.
That if we take our role responsibly, then we're in a place where we're asking questions, we're open, and we are not being a barrier where we don't need to be.
That's great. Thank you so much. So one thing that I think is true about regulators, and I think we all know, is that our mandates are to mitigate risk, right? To identify it, to mitigate it, and think about risk all the time from that point of view. But innovation, we all hear, like in the media and everywhere, is all about taking risks.
Yeah.
And so I can see a bit of a disconnect, a cultural disconnect between the sort of push to innovate and the idea of regulation. So what sort of shifts do you think regulators need to make to adopt more innovative ways?
You used the word, actually. I think we need to recreate our culture.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's recreating our culture. I think we need a culture of curiosity. I think we need a culture of really moving outside of our own box, looking up and out, and looking at the influencers in the space that is regulation broadly, and considering that. I think we need to think about who do we hire, and what does that look like. And I think about also places like CNAR, how do we continue to learn from one another so we can collaborate?
I think that's so interesting. You said the people we hire because, you know, I think we joke about ourselves like, oh, regulators, we're such rule followers. And what I hear you saying is we all need to be a little bit less rule following and a little bit more, curious and looking outwards.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up our conversation today about innovation, about regulatory sandboxes, are there any other things you want to share with the virtual audience in this topic?
Well, I think I would say that we have exceptional potential to be part of shaping the future of the professions we have the privilege to regulate. And I think we have incredible expertise that we really need to spend time with innovators and the innovation sector so that we can be part of the solutions that balance progress with mitigating risk.
That's great. Thank you so much, Jan. It's been a pleasure to learn about what you're doing and to hear from you today.
Yeah.
And I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
Yeah, thanks, Stephanie.